You guys see the green light on the microphone there?
Yes.
Okay. Green light special. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let me pull my sheet up. And we will get to a rolling. Okay, so we're continuing the concept with fractions, and we get to today's lesson, and basically it's the idea of evaluating. Now, we've done evaluation before, only this time we're going to have some fractions involved. So with evaluating, what are we doing? We're simply substituting the values for the variables and solve. Substitute the values for the variables or values of the variables and solve. So we've done evaluating before, it's just now we're going to have some fractions to deal with. And it's not a problem. We'll take a look and we'll note, are we adding, are we multiplying, are we dividing? And we'll deal with it appropriately. All right, remember with evaluating, I think it's very important that you put parentheses in place where the variable is. So the 1/8 goes in where the A was, and the 4/5 goes in where the B was. I put 1 over A. Gee, that's good. The mouth said 1/8, and the pen did not agree. Stupid hand. Always gets me in trouble. All right, so 1/8 in for the A, 7/4 in for the B, and we're ready to roll. Now, you look at this kind of problem. Are we adding, are we multiplying, are we dividing? What are we doing?
Multiplying.
We're multiplying. So, what thoughts come into your brain when you multiply? Just say them out loud.
Common denominator.
What thoughts come into your mind when you multiply? Say them out loud, everybody. Top times top, bottom times bottom, and R-bum, right? Reduce before you multiply. Those should be your thoughts. Not common denominator. It's only addition. We do not worry about a common denominator on multiplying. If you do, you're going to be in trouble. So I'm going to put the -3/1 just to keep track. Now again, let's take a look at whether this thing, whenever you're multiplying or dividing, you should never miss the sign of the final answer. Because class, is our final answer going to be positive or negative?
Negative.
There you go, being negative all the time. All right, it's going to be negative. We know it's going to be negative. We have a negative times a positive, that's a negative. And a negative times that last positive is a negative. It's going to be negative. So don't miss that. Don't miss the problem because you don't have a final negative answer. When you go back and look at your work and you're checking your answers, you should be thinking through that. Hey, this has to be a negative answer. Did I miss my negative somewhere? You should be looking for stuff like that. Okay, we're going to R-bum. And it looks like we can deal with the 8 here as a 2 times 4 and the 4 on the top right? And those 4s are gone, and that's it. So what does our top end up being? -3, and our bottom is 10, and it's -3/10. Be neat and be careful. Top is a -3 times 1, the bottom is a 2 times 5, and -3/10, and away we go. Something we can handle, we know how to do that, not a problem. Not very difficult. Let's take a look at the second example. So on this one, the original has fractions. Okay, not a big deal. I'm going to move to the left, being we have room. I didn't know how much room we need for that one. And again, look, where your variables are, put your parentheses in. So I'm writing the original, and anywhere I see a variable, I'm putting in the parentheses. So 2 parentheses, fraction bar parentheses, minus 3 parentheses, fraction bar parentheses, right? And just be careful that you get the correct values in the correct place. The x is a 2. The y on the bottom is a 3. The w is a -1. And the z is a 6. Okay, so overall problem is this with the fractions. Are we adding, multiplying, or dividing? Adding. So the thought that comes into mind when adding is get a common denominator. All right. So I'm going to pause and see if you can finish it from here. Proper fraction or improper?
Improper.
All right, sounds like you're in the right ballpark. Should be a positive improper fraction, and I got 11/6. How many got 11/6? And you would be all the correct ones. Now, I will say this. This one was a little odd in that I really could have reduced my 3/6. Did anybody do it that way? Okay. And that would have reduced down to -1/2. But you know what? I still would have had to have gotten the bottom to be a 6 to get a common denominator. I would have been right back where I was. So again, I was looking for a common denominator. I multiplied the left fraction by 2/2. How many got that one correct? Okay. All right, let's do another one. Number 3. So now we're back again to no fractions in the original problem, but a fraction involved with the a. And you know what, guys? I want to change this out and make this a little bit more interesting. Let's make the a squared and the b squared. Let's do 3a squared b squared. Okay? All right, I'm going to pause, and I'm going to want you to solve that one. Do 3a squared b squared. Your bottom is a 3. And you should have 100 doids. It's just 100 doids. No problem, right? And so I just simply, hey, 2/3 squared is 2/3 times 2/3, right? 5 squared is 5 times 5. I made them all fractions to make sure I R-bum. Those initial 3's go, and you end up with 4 times 25, 100/3. Chloe.
Instead of like doing the 3/1 times 2/3 times 2/3, I already went ahead and did 2/3 times 2/3 and then 5 times 5. And then did 3/1 times 4/9 times 25.
The only thing there is you'll have to unmultiply from your multiplying to go ahead and reduce. So you really did waste some time in doing that. And you can see it does reduce. And if it would have reduced even further, then you'd have wasted more time. So again, whenever you're multiplying and there's a fraction involved, you always want to look to see if you can reduce first. It's just going to save you time, and it'll make your number smaller, which will give you the probability of less of a mistake. Okay? But again, you can do it that way. It's just not the wisest because of time, and time does become an issue. I know you guys are used to doing the Stanford Achievement Test, which, by the way, we are now starting to use the Iowa Achievement Test, not the Stanford anymore. And the thing I didn't like about the Stanford is, especially in the math section, you always had plenty of time to do the math. That is not what happens when you start to get ready for your college entrance exams. You have to be careful with your time in math, and time issues are important issues. So anything that'll save you time is good to do. All right, how many got 100 doids? Let me see your hands. All right, very good. And if you made a mistake, hopefully you figured it out. So redeem yourself on number 4. All right, try number 4. Okay, so on this problem, when you subbed in, and I'm frozen. When you subbed in, you looked at this situation. You have a fraction and a whole number. So as you go ahead and solve that, you should have had 6/5 and then minus 14, right? 9 and 5 is 14. So then you end up with now a 6/5 and a 14. Put the 14/1. Hopefully you were thinking common denominator, right? 5/5. So now you end up with 6 minus 70/5 rule step. Sounds like many of you were there. 6 positives and 70 negatives leaves you 64 negatives. And how many got negative 64/5? All right, awesome. That's good. Very, very good. So this is a great review for fractions. It's also a great review for order of operations. And it's also a great review for evaluating. So treat each one carefully. They're all unique. Sometimes you'll be adding fractions, sometimes multiplying. We didn't do any division, but I think some of the homework will have division. Remember, with division, not a problem. You're going to change the division sign to multiplication, invert the second fraction, right? You invert and multiply the divide, and no problema. So when you see the word evaluate, you're going to think I have to substitute in the values of the variable. And guys, I can't tell you how important those parentheses are. They'll just keep you out of trouble. They'll keep things straight of when it's multiplication, when it's addition, and stuff like that. So use your parentheses, sub into those parentheses, and away you should go. Any questions, anybody? All right, awesome. That means you have 10, 20, you got a little over half the class. Maybe you'll get your homework done in class today. All right, that's it for today, and you have the rest of the time to work on homework.